It's the end of the night. NAMM 2020. This is our last broadcast for this amazing NAMM show. It's been off the hook. And I just want to thank all of our guests here today. I can't go, I'm a little tired, so I can't rifle through them, but everyone that we've had today, it's been an amazing experience. And we definitely are at the last guest, but we're not the least guest here. So I've got a great friend, a historian about music and music gear, Mr. Greg De Lorto, and his wife Sharon De Lorto to my right. He is driving a very important project to share the history of, really, I would say guitar. I know guitar's been around a lot longer, but Orville Gibson pretty much kicked everything into full gear for us. Rock and roll would not be rock and roll without him. And speaking of rock and roll, we got this lovely lady here, Teresa Topaz, and new best friend, right? High five on that.
There we go.
Rock and roll. That is what we're talking about here. So, Greg, we had you on last year, and you got a chance to hang out with
That's right.
Mr. Floro. So, you brought in this beautiful guitar last year that was a celebration of Orville. Now you're doing a history project, and you guys have a booth downstairs. And if you guys are watching this at the show, check it out. What's the booth number for
It's 4601.
All right. Tell us a bit about the booth and what you're hoping to accomplish here at the NAMM show.
Well, Sharon's probably the expert on this, but basically we were able to get a large cardboard image of Orville H. Gibson, an authorized picture, and we have it in the booth as tribute, and we brought that guitar that we were talking about just a minute ago, that Sweet 16, that's a tribute to Orville H. Gibson. So that guitar is on display, as well as the...
Priceless guitar, by the way.
It is.
You left it by itself? I got people down there. You don't know, man.
It's
might
being
not
watched.
be able to do that. I'm joking.
Well, you know, that cardboard cutout of Orville, he is 6 feet tall, and he's wearing a theater costume that he wore when he produced, directed, and choreographed a major production. They said it was an elephant of a production back then. And
I'm going to use that. This has been an elephant of a production.
yeah. And so, you know, he's got the striped pants and the plaid jacket and, you know, the oversized bow tie.
I had the picture somewhere.
So people can come down and take their picture with him, you know, do a selfie or take photos with him. And our goal really is to keep Orville alive within the music community. And what better central location in the music community is there than NAMM?
Exactly.
This is it. This is the place. And
it all kind of emanates out from here with gear and soul and spirit and passion. I keep having so many passionate people that have graced the stage today, so that's awesome.
And you know, it's all about the legacy. You know, it's C.F. Martin. You know, that legacy is is unparalleled as far as how much it has been told, how much we understand, and you know, we love the man and his family for all these generations. Orville didn't have that. But his legacy has continued on, and you know, we see it in the female community, starting mostly in World War II. There have always been female singers and, you know, performers.
Yeah.
But World War II really kicked, you know, women in high gear, and Teresa really is the embodiment of Orville's legacy because she's a tech. That would be the first thing close to Orville's
She knows
heart.
her gear. She called out the microphones when we were putting on.
Yeah.
She's like, that's it. I don't even know what the microphone is. I'm the CEO of the company. So I know they're made by a certain company. I won't name names. We're not trying to push one or the other. But yeah, that's very cool.
It's important to know your gear.
That's right. that raises a question. Let me just answer. When I first met Teresa, we were selling at the Heritage Guitar booth about 5 years ago, and we had a beautiful H157 quilted blue burst with ebony fingerboard and gold hardware. And Teresa was looking at it. I asked her, you know, can I help you? A question. And she goes, that's a beautiful blue burst quilted maple H157 with ebony fingerboard on it. And I instantly knew this person knew the instruments. So we got to know each other, and we got a guitar for her, let her play one, and she fell in love with it. And then we started talking the history, but that's where it went from there. But it is, she's singer, songwriter, guitarist, and tech. And that's something that is now coming back like it was in the past. In the old days when the women would play music, they would sing, write songs, and they would also build guitars, the instruments. They did the fine inlay work and the fine detail. Yeah. So Teresa fits right into that, and we just are so happy we met her and that she's part of our family now. You know.
Yeah, I was talking with John Daddario. From Daddario, the CEO and president, and that was one of the things he called out was they really want to support the growth in women, and they see that right now. In fact, the good news, folks, is guitar sales are up, so yay. As much as I like to play electronic music as well, or electronic gear, it's nice that people are actually playing things with strings.
That's
although
right.
I'm a bass player. So you know, I'm going to ask you a question, Teresa. When you met Greg and Sharon, and you see the passion for this legacy of Orville Gibson, what were your thoughts, and did you immediately go, I got to get involved in that?
I think it's wonderful because the amount of music is passion.
Yes.
If you don't have passion, you cannot portray what comes from the heart and what from the mind. And especially with the amount of information that Greg and Sharon are sharing with the world, I think it's so important for people to understand where music comes from, where this amazing instrument that you're playing comes from, and the legacy of it. And so it tickles me to death to see the amount of investment of knowledge and passion that they're trying to give to the world.
Yeah.
And I'm a Gibson girl full-heartedly. I remember the first time I ever heard a 1959 Les Paul, and Jimmy Page played it. I was 6 years old. It wasn't the guitar, it was that tone, that specific tone that I was after. And it wasn't until
At 6 years old?
6 years old.
Wow.
And I knew from the beginning I was going to be a musician. There was no plan B, but it was specifically a Gibson that I was after. And when I finally got a hold of that tone, I literally started crying because it meant so much to me. It's my voice. Literally.
Yes.
So I think it's so important to bring that to the world, and what they're doing, it's wonderful.
So, Greg, Sharon, tell me a bit about the role that you see with Teresa in spreading that legacy. We talked about women and the growth of the women market with guitar playing and other instruments, drummers. You know, you've got the Sheila E's out there doing percussion and leading the charge. I know tonight they're celebrating Tala Welcomefield and a bunch of other amazing ladies in the music industry. What was it that you said, okay, we've got to work with Teresa?
Well, we have the awesome benefit of knowing several players that are top players, and some of them are actually women, and they play like you can't believe, and that struck us, especially me, having someone that is so awesome as a player, and there's several of them. The list goes on. As a matter of fact, there was a list of 50 of them not too long ago.
Yeah.
But we've gotten to know several of them, and some of them are very close friends. And that passion that they have, that they can bring to the world in a different way than we've seen in the past, was one part of it. The other part of it was their knowledge of the instrument and the technical ability they have in setting up their own guitars, hearing the difference in the pickups. For example, Teresa is using a special pickup now that was made for her on her Les Paul. Other people want certain things, so they're chiming in a big way, helping the industry advance, both musically and technically with guitars. So that was, I think, my main takeaway.
I think that we need more examples of women in the industry, for one thing. You know, you have a lot of the School of Rock for kids, for young kids. And, you know, young girls should see that they can get out there and they can rock it, or they can do classical, you know, whatever it is. And having somebody like Teresa who is smart who knows her stuff, and in certain terms, but very, very humble, and yet can talk on any level about the industry. And I think that's really important because I didn't know anything about the music industry before I married Greg, and it's trying
now
to
you're
learn.
a historian.
Yeah. Well, and yes, now
She's my number one fan.
And Teresa's, it's like, I don't play, but I get to appreciate, what they're doing. And when I hear Greg, because Greg comes from a multi-generation family of violin luthiers, a couple hundred years from going back into Italy. So Greg has a fine ear and very technical. So when he says something, about someone like Teresa, it's like, I know I better pay attention to that person, because that person is someone who is above average in their knowledge and their skill. And I'm just privileged that I get to surround myself. Somebody says, well, guitar's your life? Or no, you play? I said, guitars are my life and I don't play.
So Greg, with Teresa's role with this organization and this mission, I would say, that you guys have, you had some questions that you wanted to ask her so that she can share her feelings, her passion about what you're doing.
Basically carrying the torch on to the next generation and reaching back at the same time to the history and where it all came from, as a player, as a musician, and as a songwriter, somebody that can be free and write songs, arrange songs, and then be a good business person and take care of the things that it takes to be a musician in today's world. And basically that means you have to have a job, you have to be able to work and do something until that time comes where you can do your skill constantly. You need a vocation. So that's where the technical part comes in. And that's where it's to me, very important to see that for the future, for people growing up and coming into this music industry. You can be the greatest player, but you still have to do your job, do what it takes to do, to work, to be free, to be able to buy that guitar that you want.
It's definitely a bit more of a challenge than it was back in the day.
It is.
Well, definitely a lot of players are keeping second jobs for sure.
Many of them.
People are born with talent. Teresa was very obviously born with many talents. But Teresa, you were not born with the tech knowledge that you bring to the industry. How did you get involved? What was it that compelled you to want to learn and work with the technical aspects of the guitar?
That's fun because I was on stage and I had a automatic tuner on my Gibson that I thought was going to save my life because I play in 5 different tunings and I could write my set list how I wanted it. And a gear broke. And I couldn't manually, the gear breaks, you can't get it out of that tuning. So I had to hand it over to my roadie, rewrite my set list, had 45 seconds of dead time on stage, which is death to a musician.
Yeah, that's like in a lifetime.
Yeah, and so I had to grab another guitar.
The audience agrees with you for sure.
See, he knows. And I vowed from that moment on, I am never going to let this happen to myself and be stuck and not. I hate not knowing.
Yeah.
I have to. I'm a nerdy that way. I have to know everything about what I'm doing. And so I started studying under different luthiers because I've always loved pulling things apart and putting it back together. But for me as a musician, especially a female in rock and roll, the more you know, the better. And so I actually got a call once from a friend who, she was down at a gig and her output jack, the hot ground, came apart from the jack itself, and she didn't know what to do and how to fix it. And that was her only instrument. I'm like, you brought one instrument on stage or on tour? And I didn't, I ran down to help her. But I'm never wanting to be that person, and I, just wanted to study. And next thing I know, I'm studying under some of the best luthiers, and now I'm vendor certified, Martin certified, Taylor certified. Pretty much every manufacturer warranty center that you can have, I gained.
Now, there's a guitar you brought. Is that one you built?
No, that's actually, I did an acoustic set earlier, and I wish I had my Gibson with me to show it off because it's such a beautiful instrument, but I physically only have 2 arms today. So, but my Gibson, my main guitar, it's basically a 59 reissue. It's got a 0 gravity nut on it, so as a slide player and a blues, rock and roll and blues player, I can make 2 little adjustments, and now I can raise my action. It's got.
See, this means I will not touch my bass.
You
I have
so you can bring it to me.
Yeah. Fortunately, the guy who built it, it's custom bass. He's in my, he's not that far away. I let him do it because I won't do it, but I admire that because I think do it yourself in this industry is going to be key.
It's important as
Very important.
If you talk to a professional race car driver, they know how to set up their car, right? You have to. For me, the more I know, the better, and the more professional a player I am, the more in sync with that instrument I am. My pickups were actually made by another very strong woman in this industry, MJ, who runs the custom shop at Seymour Duncan.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And
Seymour Duncan is run by a woman actually who's
right. Yeah. So a lot of powerhouses working for them, but she listened to me and my style of music and actually custom made those pickups specifically for me. And then the cherry on the cake is she actually engraved my name, so it literally says in the neck Teresa and then Topaz in the bridge. I put the only thing the original on that guitar is the wood and the frets. So everything else I've custom made specifically for my playing style. But as a musician, and Greg, can share this because he sets up every single instrument that he touches. You respect the instrument, and when something's off. If there's a balance between action height and where you get resonance out of it, and if you go too high, you lose it. If you go too low. And so there's a lot of musicians that just go, here, you do it, and that's great. But then the ones who like to nerd out and geek out, it's great because then you have that knowledge moving forward. And I'm one of very few certified guitar techs also. So it kind of plays when the people come like, oh, let me talk to your guy.
I will have to. I've got other guitars that's not made by him that I'd be into. So we're going to be closing out now as the show closes. I want to thank everybody for watching and chiming in online. We'll have all this fun stuff on YouTube and all the other socials that you all know and love from us. One last thought, guys. What would you like to share with the viewing audience?
Well, first, I'd just like to thank our co-partner in our booth, which is Zither Guitar Stands. And if you're a guitarist or you play bass, violin, ukulele, saxophone, you have to come down and see those amazing stands. They are California earthquake safe.
Awesome. That's good to know here in this part of the world. So.
That's right. I wholeheartedly agree. I was against it at first when I first saw it because I didn't want my expensive guitars on a stand that tall. It looked like it wasn't safe.
Half size.
But she convinced me, and now that's all we have.
Yeah.
And we use them, and I believe in them. I have a guitar in it at all times.
Awesome. Teresa Topaz.
Rock and roll and blues, and
she has a CD that I absolutely love. It's called Whiskey Kind of Girl. And
it's my love song to whiskey.
It's great. So people need to go, online and buy it, or it's actually sold like in Whole Foods.
It's sold Whole Foods. I'm one of the very few independent artists that actually got it into Barnes & Noble and Whole Foods. Awesome. But it's on every major platform. So, but new music to come very shortly. So.
Well, great. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. Like I said,
thank you.
This is the last interview of 2020 NAMM. That is almost like 2019.
I'm still doing that.
I know, right? And again, last but not least, Greg, Sharon, and Teresa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you folks. And go down if you're here, check out the booth. Florentino, Enter Talk, The Changing Stage. We'll see you next time. We're out.